main parts of a story consist of 5 elements: characters, setting, plot, conflict, and resolution. Understanding what the creator has to say about the setting, a setting in which we're all placed, is rather important because it's directly related to bettering our understanding of the characters, plot, conflict, and resolution within the same biblical narrative. It's typically agreed upon that Moses wrote the book of Genesis, and that he was on Mount Sinai receiving revelation regarding our origin story from God. Paul tells us in Titus 1:2 that God cannot lie, and several other scriptures inform us that God's word is true. Therefore, when Yahweh descended upon Sinai along with his angelic entourage, he came bearing words that were true. When something is said to be true, it's in accordance with fact or reality. It's accurate or exact. Recording what the beginning of the creation model looked like, Moses wrote, "And God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the water, and let it be a division between water and water. And it was so. And God made the firmament, and God divided between the water which was under the firmament and the water which was above the firmament. And God called the firmament heaven. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the second day." On day 2, the second literal day of Yahweh's creative efforts, God made a structure referred to as the firmament, and he called it good, and then goes on to assert the name he gave this firmament structure, naming it heaven. This structure divided the waters that he created a day earlier, and in doing so, water was kept up above the firmament, and water was kept below the firmament. 2 days after creating the firmament, then God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens to separate the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years, and let them be for lights in the firmament of the heavens to give light on the earth." And it was so. So God made the 2 great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night, and also the stars. And God placed them in the firmament of the heavens to give light on the earth, and to rule the day and the night, and to separate the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening and there was morning, a 4th day. Notice that God told Moses he created 2 great lights, the sun and the moon. The stars also get a quick and rather inferior mention, but what God doesn't say is that the sun is a star, or that the stars are suns. All 3 are their own unique light kinds. Also notice that these lights were created 4 days after the earth was already established. Again, if we trust Yahweh's ability to recollect and relay information in a truthful and precise manner, and that Moses heard what God spoke and recorded things with spirit-filled accuracy, then that should, at the very least, tarnish the reputation of the so-called axiomatic heliocentric model, and call to question one of its elemental assertions, that the earth naturally formed roughly 100 million years after the sun's formation. This is just one of many pseudoscientific proofs that is in fact baked into the official heliocentric theory. Another claim that exists within the heliocentric model is the idea that we live within a universe that continues to expand, thus creating more galaxies and solar systems, etc. in the process. However, Yahweh told Moses in Genesis 2, verses 1-2, "Thus the heavens and the earth were completed, and all their hosts. And on the 7th day God completed his work which he had done, and he rested on the 7th day from all his work which he had done." Creation was completely finished on day 7, including everything contained within the heavens. Every star was brought forth, and not a single one has come forth after that. Now get this. Built into the firmamental structure that God called heaven are floodgates. Yahweh used these floodgates to wash the earth clean during the days of righteous Noah. Genesis 7:11 says, "In the 600th year of the life of Noah, in the 2nd month, on the 27th day of the month, on this day, all the fountains of the abyss were broken up, and the floodgates of heaven were opened." A chapter later in Genesis 8:2, God uses this same device to halt the outpouring of water upon the earth. According to the Strong's Concordance, the Hebrew word for floodgates is arubah, and can be defined as a sluice. which is a sliding gate or other device for controlling the flow of water. Within the very nature of the firmament, we are provided with a mechanical description of a device that controls the flow of the waters that Yahweh contained above the firmament when he first installed the firmament on day 2 of creation week. These are the same waters above that David recognized thousands of years later, as mentioned in Psalm 148 verse 8. Not only did David understand the firmament and how it holds up the waters that got divided on day 2, he understood the relationship that the firmament has with the sun and its position within the creation model itself. Psalm 19, 4-6 says, "In them, the heavens, he has placed a tent for the sun, which is as a bridegroom coming out of his chamber. It rejoices as a strong man to run his course. Its rising is from one end of the heavens, and its circuit to the other end of them, and there is nothing hidden from its heat." The sun runs a course and performs a circuit that starts from one end of heaven and faithfully goes to the other end and back. Nowhere are we to suggest that a globular earth is actually spinning and fulfilling the details laid out in these passages. The tent that David mentions is the covering of the firmament of the heavens that the sun and moon were placed within, as mentioned back in Genesis 1, 14-19. Joshua was well aware of how the Creator's model worked. While knowing about it and trusting in what his Creator revealed to Moses years earlier on Mount Sinai, he commanded the following. "Then Joshua spoke to the Lord in the day in which the Lord delivered the Amorite into the power of Israel, when he destroyed them in Gibeon, and they were destroyed from before the children of Israel. And Joshua said, Let the sun stand over against Gibeon, and the moon over against the valley of Ajalon. And the sun and the moon stood still, until God executed vengeance on their enemies. And the sun stood still in the midst of heaven, and did not proceed to set until the end of one day." Without going into detail, the implications of such an event would have been absolutely catastrophic had God created a heliocentric universe. It would have required the suspension of Earth's spin in order for the sun and moon to stand still in the midst of heaven for a full day. Now, of course, there is no miracle too great for God to work, but in the spirit of Occam's razor, the simplest way to exegete these passages in Joshua is through the lens that all the biblical characters had with regards to the setting that God created. The sun and moon stopped because the sun and moon are lights in the firmament that perform daily circuits above our stationary, immovable Earth. Stopping them for a day doesn't disturb anything within the biblical cosmological model. This model also informs us about how the shadows were able to turn back 10 steps in 2 Kings 20, verses 8-11, which says, "Now Hezekiah said to Isaiah, What will be the sign that the Lord will heal me, and that I will go up to the house of the Lord on the 3rd day? Isaiah said, This shall be the sign to you from the Lord, that the Lord will perform the word that he has spoken. Shall the shadow go forward 10 steps, or go back 10 steps? So Hezekiah said, It is easy for the shadow to decline 10 steps. No, but have the shadow turn backward 10 steps. Then Isaiah the prophet called out to the Lord, and he brought the shadow on the stairway back 10 steps, by which it had gone down on the stairway of Ahaz. The sun was put in reverse, which wouldn't have the type of impact that reversing the Earth's spin would have had if the Bible actually taught the heliocentric model. As you can see, friends, the Bible teaches something much different regarding the world we live in. So ask yourself, who are you going to trust? The Creator? Or those who despise him and teach the opposite of what he truthfully revealed to his prophets?